I'm Rear Admiral Thomas M. Dyson, retired. So many people have asked me whether submarines ever fight submarines. In this chapter of the Science Service, we're going to take you along to the South China Sea as a passenger in the United States submarine backfish on her six-wall patrol. There's nothing like getting the answer firsthand. In February 1945, units of the 8th Army under Lieutenant General Hall had landed at Swamidass in the Philippines. The U.S. forces were at the height of their power. The Japanese were on the run. With the United States in command of the sea and the air, there was no hope for a Dunkirk-type rescue. So they tried to save the important ones in a mad scramble. Some hoped to make it by air, only to fall victim to the relentless air patrol that fights disappear. Only a short distance to Formosa. They traveled in anything that would move. Some didn't get there. At sundown on the evening of February 9th, 1945, the Japanese submarine I-41 departed from Apari. She was loaded with key Air Force personnel that would be needed in the defense of Formosa. Having finally reached what they thought was a haven of safety, they were feeling pretty good. Just one more hurdle. The USS Backfish. Our skipper was Lieutenant Commander John K. Fife from Virginia Beach, Virginia. The executive officer was Lieutenant Clark K. Sprinkle from Youngstown, Ohio. Lieutenant John L.
Thanks. Well, now's as good a time as any, Mr. Miller. Take her down to periscope depth.
Yes, sir. Clear the bridge. Dive.
Stand right.
Welcome, everybody. Nephilim Free, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I hear you fine. I had my mic muted.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank all the listeners who are coming over from Standing for Truth. He did an excellent job with the Joshua Strawman Swamidass and Gutsick Gibbon takedown. So, very well done. Standing for Truth. Thank you, and welcome to our listeners. Oh, the guest of honor is here. Oh my goodness.
No, it's my honor, Sal. I wanted to just jump in, even for a few minutes, show my support. The family's waiting upstairs for dinner in the next few minutes, but I just wanted to say great job to everything you're doing. I want everybody to subscribe. You put on some great shows, and I'm excited for your protein probability lecture, hopefully in the next week or so, or Sunday or Monday. So
that'll be good.
I sent you an email for Sunday night at your leisure. So if not, we can postpone it to another day. And this is actually, thank you for suggesting subscriptions to this channel. It's actually a throwaway channel because I'm just learning StreamYard and Restream and Streamlabs, and I'm trying to just navigate my way. So this is great practice for me. I'm really inspired by all your dedication to researching all this stuff. So I was only able to listen to about half of your talk because I was so busy trying to learn how to do this stuff.
I know it's funny because it doesn't seem so easy at first, but once you master it, and Brother Neff knows too, it took me the longest time to actually just want to start running it myself. I had people helping me. So now once you can run it yourself, it's just so accessible and easy. You can just go live whenever you want. You talk to your audience. So yeah, this is good. This is a good way for you to practice, get the hang of things. It already looks like you're kind of getting the hang of it. And then you'll have your main channel, you're saying, Sal?
Yes, it'll be evidenceandreasons.org. I already have some material up there, but I need to fill it out. Tomorrow, I'm also... my focus will be to differentiate my channel from the others. I will actually be working more and more toward just simple educational. So the lecture series will be kind of taken on my channel. I'm not really much into debate. If someone wants to debate me, I'd suggest a 5-day debate. And because this short format of 1 hour debates or 2 hour debates, it favors the side that doesn't have facts, because they could just bluff and throw up garbage.
Say what they want. Yeah.
And you know, when you have a 5-day debate, after day 1, you can just review everything they said, and you can do a thing like what you did tonight. It's like, okay, you said this yesterday. All right, I'm going to call you out on it. What do you have to say now?
It's such a good point, Sal, because to be honest with you, after doing countless debates, I'm almost having more fun now doing these rebuttal videos because, like you said, you can go through, you can because I'll be honest with you, I formulated my response to Swamidass, and what I did, I was tempted to go last night, but I was like, I don't want to be wrong on anything, so I messaged Jensen with what I thought was a good rebuttal to him for him to confirm that it was correct. And he's a blessing because he responded to me right away and said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Joshua is strawmanning his position.
Oh.
So you can't really do that in a debate. You know what I mean? You can't
exactly
quickly go and cross check and corroborate. No, but when it's like you said, a 5-day or a 5-year debate, then you can call them out.
You know what I'd say is, okay, let's have 5 rounds, 4 hours each round. And we have a week to review everything. And then the next time I see you, I'm going to debunk everything you just said. I'll call you out on your bluffs.
That would really be hard
on your
on
misrepresentations. Then we'll have a real discussion, because you could throw stuff out there. You could throw papers that I've not read. You can make claims and inferences that it proves your point when it really doesn't. And you go ahead and do that and give me a week to look at it. And then I'll call you on it, because that's been my experience with the way they do business.
Amen.
So anyway, all this to say that that's one of the reasons I'm kind of committed to doing educational videos, because once people just learn the language, they can start to read the peer-reviewed papers for themselves. And then we could start to just go through papers. It's going to be boring and laborious, and that's a little bit more of my work. So but I love the drama that you generate. That's great. And, so thanks for supporting the work I do. But I mean, if people are saying Sal's afraid to debate, I'll say, no, I'm not. Here are the terms: 4 hours, 4 hours, five, a 5-part series, and we'll hash this out. We'll have a week to go, and it's like, those are my terms. If you think I'm dodging, I'm not dodging. I want a real fight. I don't want you guys bluffing anymore and lying and misrepresenting and twisting and just dumping garbage. And it's like, okay, you want to come, so I'm really, if people are saying Sal's hiding and he's not wanting to debate,
No, you're not
I'll
hiding.
debate you guys, but you have to debate on fair terms. You have to be willing to have your stuff called out.
A 5-day debate like that would really turn away all but the most ardent evolutionists, because the big talker bluffer guys are going to shy from that. They're going to be too afraid of that, because they know if you can fact check everything they say, they can't just toss out flubber and expect people to believe it. And so they're the ones that really don't fight to the tooth and nail to their death over evolution are going to shy from that. You'll be stuck with only guys that are seriously, really adamant, and not just internet blatherers, because those guys are going to run tuck tail from you.
Oh yeah, they won't. Yeah, well, it's kind of like what Erica's doing right now with her last video. She titled it, "This is my final video" or something with creations, because we are now given the opportunity to fact check everything. And I want to point this out with you, Sal. You're not dodging or running, and I'll tell you why. All of your lectures, including your last awesome one on the worthless definition of fitness, they're all there on my channel. I put them in a nice, neat, organized playlist, and guess what? There's been no rebuttal. There hasn't even been an attempt to refute you, and I challenge people to do it all the time. So that's it. You won. That's your 5-day debate.
Thank you. I should mention, again, this isn't my official channel. This is practice. I'm also going to try to explore Streamlabs. StreamYard is nicer, but I don't feel like shelling out the money right now, because until I get really familiar with stuff, I'm not going to commit. And I should mention tomorrow I'm going to be at 2 p.m. Let me provide a link. I'm going to have a discussion on relativity, special relativity, Maxwell's equations, and young Earth creationism. It's going to be a physics talk. So let me type that in right now. And it's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that is definitely for the nerds. It's really funny.
I'll be there.
Okay,
I'll be there.
So Lena emailed me asking questions about relativity and Maxwell's equations and Einstein's field equations. Actually, that's kind of where I was devoting myself to studying young Earth creationism from the perspective of physics. It's a very difficult field. We haven't had the breakthroughs in physics like we had in biology. So the reason I'm ended up in doing biology is we're really winning the debate there for abiogenesis and so many other areas. The physics thing is still very challenging, but that's kind of where my heart is. So I posted a link to the discussion, hopefully tomorrow.
Well, I'll definitely, what I'll do, Sal, I'm going to post your physics lecture or talk. I'll post it on my channel for people to. So what's really good is if you click community, so on your YouTube, it'll say like home, video, subscriptions. There'll be something called community. I utilize that a lot. You go into it and you can post little things. So what I'll do is I'll post for people to see, I'll post your talk for tomorrow, and I'll tell people to make sure they're here and kind of advertise it for you. I'll definitely be listening, Sal, because physics is not my expertise. That's definitely something I need to learn something on. So I look up to you on that one.
Well, I want you, SFT, your family counts for a lot. And please thank your missus, and maybe your kids don't understand, but thank them for supporting you and sacrificing to let you do what you're doing. And So I encourage you to go back. As much as I'd love to keep talking to you, your family counts for a lot. This isn't goodbye. We're going to see each other some more.
Before you go,
we got Nephilim free here. So.
Yes, Neff, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, dude. Before you go, do we have a day for a time for my debate?
Yeah.
Your host, and what time is it going to be?
So I've got it, Neff. If you go to my channel, you'll see it advertised already. Okay. So it's Saturday, and I've been advertising it in the streams too. The thumbnail, everything's there. 9 o'clock EST. Great. Genesis Flood, you versus Derek Barnes. That's going to be. I think that's going to be a big one. Neff, you are the flood
9 p.m. Right?
Yeah. So I think that's
9
that's
p.m.
8 for you.
8 time 9. Okay.
You got
Saturday, right? Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Great, thanks.
So make sure everybody's there.
That'll be fun.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm pumped. And Brother Sal, I appreciate the kind words. I wish I could stay all night. You're right. I gotta run upstairs for dinner. The family's calling my name. So Chris, I seen you just joined. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother. Appreciate all your hard work, brother.
I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Have a good talk and subscribe to our channel.
See you soon, Standing.
God bless you. Great job.
God bless. Thanks for giving something.
Thank you.
About.
Thanks, brothers.
So, Sal, you're going to be doing a impossibility of protein evolution thing soon, right? A broadcast.
Yes, and I'll just give the listeners a preview of what's going on. It's very easy for a tornado to go through a junkyard and make pebbles, and I mean not pebbles, but paperweights. I'm sorry, even a random pebble can serve as a paperweight or a primitive hammer. So a lot of the evidences of evolution provided by the abiogenesis and evolutionary community appeal to that sort of kind of function where you just take something random and you can get it to do something.
Yeah, I remember the mousetrap thing.
Yeah.
Remember the silly mousetrap thing that what was his name? Ken Miller did. Yeah, you can use it as a tie clip. Oh, for real, please.
Yeah, I was in a chat with Knox channel, the Raging Atheist, and they used that one, and they're still using that to over trial and stuff, man. It's hilarious. I think even Dan the pseudoscience man came in for a brief second.
As if the court is now the decider. A judge is the decider of what's scientifically valid or not. I mean, come on, everybody knows the judge was persuaded to provide a secular answer to this thing,
How long ago was that too? I mean, come on. Crazy. How you been doing, Nev?
I'm doing okay, I guess. Just the same old, and I'm really stoked about this protein thing that Sal's going to do, because I've looked into the protein problem, and it's nonsense, absolutely nonsense, to believe that proteins could be a product of evolution, or even worse, that once you get a set of proteins in an organism, they can be changed in such a way as to provide the biochemistry of a whole different type of organism by mutation. Because, Sal, tell us, we all know, I mean, those of us who've looked into it, what happens to proteins almost every time when a mutation occurs to a protein coding gene is a defunct protein, right? Not something that's got a new function, right?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some of that. It can tolerate changes in some parts, just like you can take a car.
If it swaps out an amino acid with one that provides the same function, but that's rare. That's really pretty rare.
Well, what I'm going to show is that there can't be macroevolution to major protein architectures. See, the thing is that I'm actually going to go through, this could be a multi-part series because it's going to be pretty technical. But that's where you win the argument. So I'm going to cover collagen, then zinc finger proteins, then topoisomerase. If people are really interested, we can go into helicases, ATP synthases, and potassium ion channels. So this is going to be a very different kind of presentation on protein probabilities, where we actually go into the nuts and bolts. Because when you see the nuts and bolts, you see maybe a tornado passing through a junkyard might be able to make paperweight, maybe a primitive hammer, but it's not going to make a 747. There are a lot of proteins in eukaryotic organisms that are more like 747s, figuratively speaking, than a paperweight. But what evolutionists will do is like, oh, look at this paperweight we made, and try to represent that. Or they'll take it's like taking a car and then throwing, removing seats and stuff and saying, oh, it's lighter, it can run faster. Well, yeah, it could run faster, but it's lost certain functionality. And so I'm going to cut through that. There's a lot of garbage where they say this modification increased its reproductive success, and it might be able to do certain functions better, but it does that at a cost. And when we actually go through specific examples, it becomes more and more clear. And
that's going to be really good.
Yeah.
That'll be good to provide the real technical look at it. I think people who are evolutionists, a lot of layperson evolutionists, believe that protein evolvability is just a given, that it can really happen in the most marvelous ways, because they misunderstand two things. Firstly, they misunderstand that when a mutation occurs to a protein, it's very rare that mutation will cause a substitution that swaps out an amino acid with another one that is able to provide the same folding as the one that was originally coded, because that's rare. You've got a 1 in 20 shot at it at the very best. And most of the time when a substitution occurs, it results in a protein that's of decreased efficiency or completely defunct. And that's one of the major causes of disease. So people falsely believe that amino acids can be substituted willy-nilly and the protein still be viable. And that's myth. And then there's also the idea that proteins can tolerate just about any kind of folding change and still result in a functional viable protein, because that's not true. I think they lack an understanding of how incredibly complex proteins and protein folding really is. Would you agree, Sal?
Yes. And I have to also say part of the presentation is also to help creationists. Some of their understanding of how proteins work is a little bit faulty, and I need to help that. Now, one thing that I have going for me is some of the material that I'll be presenting has actually made it me as co-author through secular peer review. Okay, so people are going to say, Sal's just making this up. It's like, well, you'll have an issue between me and my co-authors, one of whom is a professional enzymologist, associate professor at Vanderbilt Medical School. So that's what I'm looking forward to having.
I like that idea. Make them attack their own camp. I love it.
Yeah. Now the thing is, let me post one of the papers I'll be working with. So
I'll be back in just a second.
Sure. So I'm typing right now in the comment section one of the peer-reviewed abstracts. I'm typing peer-reviewed abstract. This is the peer-reviewed abstract that I'll be one of the proteins I'll be covering, and so I provided a link to the. I hope it got through. Am I not even able to post on my own on my own channel? Oh, there. I don't know. It sometimes blocks,
I'm sorry,
which is really kind of funny. So I'll be covering this in passing, and if we have a multi-part series, I'll be covering it in more detail. So this is why I feel that I could speak on this topic with a little more confidence, because it has passed peer review. Not to mention my co-authors are very good in the field. One of them has studied enzymes and teaches enzymes, does research on enzymes, and he's a recognized expert. He is published in secular peer review. So the way that people are able to, if they're creationists or ID proponents, publish in secular peer review is they have to do research, like say in the medical field, and people who are competent are able to publish in that field. And the thing is that what they learn in the process of finding cancer therapeutics or whatever, they begin to learn how biology works, and that's how creationists can move forward, at least for now. It's very hard to do a straight up anti-evolutionary paper. It'd probably be shot down by editors at evolutionary biology journals. If you tell them their field's just garbage, that probably won't fly. So you have to kind of go through the indirect path and just really talk about the complexity of biology, how life is fearfully and wonderfully made, especially humans. Humans are very, very special. So I'd like to thank all the guests here who have visited. We have 9 people, and I see people in the chats. If you have questions, go ahead and throw some questions at us, at our panel.
I've got a slight question for Neff and Dr. Carter. I was asking him, he said in the chat that he's the team of young earth scientists he's a part of wants to do a multi-day online summit on the best evidence for creation and the flood, plus arguments against evolution. Be thinking about speakers, topics. That's actually in the chat. If you want to, you could pull it up on the screen if you wanted to. But
okay, good. Okay, wait, hang on, Chris Keith. I'm going to make you a moderator.
Thank you, sir. Well, you made me a moderator last time. Thank you. I have it, so I can post a link if I need to.
I don't know how to. Are you already a moderator?
Yeah, you made me and Lena, and I think it was just me and Lena that was here the other night. You made us the moderator.
So did you inherit that from last time?
Yeah. Once you do that, as long as you said you may change or may not change your YouTube channel. As long as you stick with the same YouTube channel, we will remain moderators each time you come on StreamYard.
So does that mean you can also post comments to the, like what I'm able to do? So if I do a show, can you do a show like I just did, like there?
Yeah, no, we won't be able to do that.
Okay.
You're kind of in charge of that, so you can show those, hide those as you want to.
All right.
What we can do is just keep an eye on the chat, make sure that no one's coming in here just disruptive, and also we can post links too. So like usually if you try to post a YouTube link, it's not going to show up for anybody else, so they can't plug their channel or send somebody to somewhere they don't want to go to get a virus or something. So
moderator powers, when you give somebody moderator power in the chat, it really only applies to the chat, nothing else about the live stream.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So are there co-moderators for the actual StreamYard?
Not unless you give them the login, and they can log in with the same email address and password. Then they could.
Will it knock me off if they do that? I ask.
I really don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I'll tell you the reason why. One time, I've occasionally had just like a hiccup on the internet, and it could cut the stream down.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to have people that could back me up in case we had it cut out. So
what I've seen is generally in this where it's happened, where somebody like starts to stream, like Praise, I am, he does that. The Raging Atheist does that, and they both have moderators. Like Praise has Gavin, and I think Ronnie has John Peterson. But they can leave, and then so they can run the chat, and that way, if you need to go do something, you've got somebody in there that can allow people to share screen or let people in and out of the room. You know what I mean? So basically, just do everything you can do.
Oh, say that again. I was a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I talk a little fast too. They basically, I can just sum it up. It will allow them to just basically do everything you can do. And you can leave and come back, and if you was to lose connection, if they're in there, the StreamYard will stay carried on.
Oh, okay. So
it just makes, like, let's say if you did what Neff said, then Neff would just be essentially the same as you, and if you left, then Neff would be able to, the stream would stay open because he would also have access to the StreamYard. Whereas we don't have access to the StreamYard, we just have moderating powers.
You know what? I can test that. I can test that because I have 2 internet accounts, partly in anticipation of stuff like this, and I can actually test that out. So,
And if you're going to do something where you're going to do like a longer string or something, that might not be a bad idea. That way, like, because I know, I take care of my grandfather. He's 94. I know you is your mother you look after?
yes.
And that would allow if something happened, you had an emergency or something like that, and then you could go take care of that. And if you lost, like, let's say you lost connection, the whole StreamYard wouldn't be lost, So that might be something to think about. I don't know.
Yeah. So you had a question for Nephilim Free?
Well, I mean, the question was when
Neph, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm here.
I kind of responded back to Dr. Carter, like what kind of platform did he think he'd be using, like YouTube? I like StreamYard, and YouTube combined. So I didn't know if Neff or anybody in the chat would have a better suggestion on what kind of platform in respect to that comment that you highlighted about the team of young earth scientists.
Not about that. I have a suggestion for him, though. He says he's going to be doing a summit on best evidence for the creation and the flood, plus arguments against evolution, be thinking about speaker topics. And he asked any suggestions. Well, I would, when it comes to speaking about the flood, here's a couple of things to think about, I think, are really important when it comes to the flood. People believe, because they've been told, by secular sources, that the strata, the different layerings of materials in the earth, are formed over vast periods of time. And they believe that, and they immediately swallow the idea that the earth is evolution's been going on over hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, because it took hundreds of millions of years to build this geologic column, as it's called, these million strata that are built on top of each other. If you can destroy somebody's belief that the strata require vast ages of time, and that strata show powerful evidence that the strata form rapidly, then you deflate that idea that geology somehow verifies through the stratification of the earth that the earth is a vast age, and that questions everything about evolution and uniformitarianism. And one way to do that is to show, there's two things you can do to show that and deflate that belief, that myth that the earth must be millions of years old because the strata take forever to lay down, is show that sedimentary strata can and have been observed to form even in laboratory setting since the 1950s with experiments in university setting, and rapidly, right before your very eyes, in sedimentology experiments. So if we can reproduce what the geologic column is comprised of in minutes in the laboratory, then we've deflated the quote unquote proof that uniformitarianism is true. Also, folded strata, all the bent strata in the earth, especially in those in mountains, is something that cannot be formed over a vast age of time because rock doesn't bend; it breaks. The only way those materials could be contorted like that, they're deformed strata, is if that material was still soft in plastic when it was deformed at the surface of the earth and then uplifted from the surface of the earth. And the rebuttal to that immediately is, well, they were formed deep in the earth where the earth is, the temperature's high enough that the rock can deform. But the problem with that is these strata are contiguous inside the mountain and in the area outside the mountain because it's that same strata that's in the mountain that's also 5 miles away from the mountain. But it's not a mountain. So that means the mountain rose up from the surface of the earth, not from 20 or 30 miles down where the temperature is high enough to deform it. And so that material had to be soft and plastic in order to deform that way. And if you can cause somebody to doubt that solid rock won't bend unless it's subjected to intense pressure, heat, very deep in the earth, if you can show them that these mountain strata were not deep in the earth, 10 or 20 kilometers down, at the very least 10, then they'll have to see the truth. They're forced to face the idea that those materials were in fact soft and plastic when they were deformed. And if they were soft and plastic, why were they moist? And why were they, how could they have been deformed like that if the evolutionist is true? So those two things, I think, are really strong points when it comes to the flood, is the deformed strata and showing that sedimentary strata don't require vast age of time to form. They can in fact be formed in the laboratory right before your very eyes. That would be something, 2 points that I think are really critical when talking about the flood.
Have you seen the video Drama in the Rocks where they talked about the experiments you were
Yes, I've
pointing
seen
out?
that. And
That's my favorite video. Oh my goodness, that is
yeah,
like
it's
my
great.
favorite video. People ask me what's your best case for young Earth creationism. What I would say is that we don't need to even have young Earth or young universe to win the argument. If the fossil record is young, independent of one's theological interpretations of Genesis, if you just did the science, I'd say just watch the thing that you saw in Drama in the Rocks, and then just go from there. And there are other problems with the old fossil model. It's just when I was a theistic evolutionist for a while, not very long. I was an old Earth creationist for much longer, so I accepted that God did create life, and I accepted at the time the old ages of the fossil record. But when I began to see these scientific arguments, I'm just like, well, at the very least, I think the jury's still out. Maybe we shouldn't rush to judgment that the fossil record is old, and that was very persuasive. The thing that always did bother me is some of the issues with radiometric dating, and I'm still looking into that. I would like to participate in whatever I can to do research in that area. Like I said, physics is more of my love, but biology is just wonderful right now. We are being handed winning arguments on a silver platter right now. It's still a little hard in geology and physics by comparison. What I mean by that, I'm not saying we have no arguments. It's just that there's so many in biology right now. It's just
Right.
overwhelming. Not what I mean by so much is that it's coming out in secular peer review. I mean, it's just pouring out. I mean, if we had the same kind of stuff happening in geology and physics, where people who are secular are saying kind of they're basically saying we've got serious problems here, it'd be a different story. It's slowly turning around in physics, particularly cosmology.
I think also in biology, there were two scientists who published a number of papers, Jack Travers and David L. Abel, in recent years that question evolution and show which and their evolution. One of them is an evolutionist, the other is not, and very interesting because they speak about how the genetic system in organisms operates algorithmically, and the ribosome operates with algorithms. And these things are clearly that's design. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the idea of believing that an algorithm can be designed by happenstance occurrences between matter. And so if you've got these kinds of things being published in the mainstream journals, then other scientists are reading this and they've got to be scratching their heads. How in the world does undirected natural chemistry produce algorithmic operations with choice contingent controls? I mean, they're left with dough on their face. They don't know where to go with this. And this is clear evidence of intelligent design, even if it's not stated so in that paper. And and this is being presented in mainstream journals. That is something I don't think would have even been possible 25 years ago.
Yes, and one thing just regarding the authors, Jack Travers is an atheist. David Abel is a Christian, and I think he's retired now. And I had a very nice conversation with David Abel, and I think I'm free to share this. He said he deliberately. I said, why have I not heard him speak in the creationist circuit or ID circuit or churches?
Oh, what did he
And
say?
He spoke because a friend. He retired finally, and then he spoke here in Fredericksburg, near where I live. And he said, I've not done this for like the 40 years that he was working, because he said he wouldn't be able to publish. But he said he was able to continue to publish and to just bring stuff like this out because he kept a very, very low profile. And he deliberately, as a conscious decision, decided to not be associated with the ID community. Now, what's very interesting about this, I don't know how he managed this, but he was one of the directors of the first Origin of Life research project that gave a $1 million prize, and the judges would have been Nobel Prize winners. So he was in some pretty elite circles. And so that prize was never claimed. No surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have people like that who are very, very sympathetic and are on our side of the issues, but will not associate themselves not because they're afraid. They are not cowards at all. I'll tell you that, but because they feel, I mean, if you think about it, someone who's a spy, who's a mole, he's really taking a bigger risk by going right there where the enemy is. But he's there, and he's spending time, and he's being one of them from a scientific standpoint. And to do that for that many decades and keeping a low profile, and he managed to get a few good papers out through peer review. That one in Cell Biology International on the origin, chance, and necessity do not explain the origin of life. His co-author, Jack Travers, he published so many papers quietly. So we finally had a conversation. He said, now that I'm retired, Sal, I can finally talk at church. And he gave one lecture. I went out of my way to see him for that one lecture. That's once in a lifetime lecture by David Abel. So I asked him, how did you get in touch? Did you ever meet Jack Travers personally? He said, no. They actually co-authored the paper, and they never met personally. So I don't know how that came about. That was very interesting. And Jack Travers he's an atheist, but I felt that he had enough scientific integrity to say, yeah, this is a problem. There are people like that that'll just say, well, let's just move on, and atheism, in his case, it's kind of painful to see him go there. And for some people, they're either atheist or agnostics, possibly for personal reasons. And I don't want to be too harsh on these people, but there's a lot of bad stuff in the world, and there's a lot of anger toward God because of the bad stuff in the world, and they'd rather not deal with it. So it's not from the science standpoint. And I'm not trying to excuse what they're doing, but I can empathize, because there is a lot of bad stuff in the world, and it's easy to get angry about how things are. Mm-hmm. And that's just between them and God. And there have been people that have been atheists or agnostics till their dying day, and they're like Jack Travers. They actually persuaded me of the Christian God, and I have to tell you, I'm practically in tears when I hear that they passed away without knowing the Lord, because they did so much to bring me to faith in God, or at least just keep me in faith in God.
Yeah. I think there are two things that also indicate that times are changing that have happened in recent years. I'm not saying that by saying this, I'm not saying that the evolutionists are giving up. Okay, I'm just saying things have changed. And one of them was a symposium held at Cornell University called Biological Information, New Perspectives. And speakers there included John Sanford, Michael Behe, William Dembski, Bruce Gordon, and they gave discussions on questions that require answering if evolution is true, and evidence which bespeaks of intelligent design. And this was held on the grounds of Stanford University. Now, some of the other speakers there were John Baumgartner, Wesley Brewer, and others, and they address things like can purifying natural selection preserve biological information, and where's the origin of biological information, and other things like this. And it just wouldn't have been possible, I don't think, 20 years prior to that, to actually have for a clearly secular university like Stanford to even allow a symposium to be held on their campus that questions the idea, brings up the idea that life may be a product of intelligence, and we may have the signature of it in the cell. That just that indicates something has changed. But even long before that, in 1980, there was another symposium held at the University of Chicago, and some of the biggest evolutionary biologists of the day gathered at that symposium. And this is what Richard Lewontin, the PhD biologist turned science writer, said about it. He said, the central question of the Chicago conference was whether the mechanisms underlying microevolution can be extrapolated to explain the phenomenon of macroevolution. At the risk of doing violence to the positions of some of the people in the meeting, the answer can be given a clear no. In other words, there were members there in that meeting that said, we cannot show that microevolutionary change leads to macroevolution. And that's a major failing point for evolution theory. If the kinds of changes that we observe organisms to incur cannot be accumulated to cause macroevolutionary change, then where is this mechanism for macroevolution? We don't even, what is it? We don't know of it. Where is it? Who can point to it and say, we can see this happen. We have a mechanism for it. And that was way back in 1980. So I think creationists were already beginning to have an impact as far back as 1980. And it's been a really slow hill climb, because of the resistance. But things are slowly changing, it looks like.
Yes, and I wanted to say I believe this is totally a move of God, that he hid away all this evidence. It says in Proverbs 25:2, it's the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's the glory of kings to search out a matter. Mm-hmm. Or other translations, it's the glory of God to conceal things, the glory of kings to search things out. That means God had concealed some of this stuff for a long time to be discovered here in the 21st century. And it says in 1 Corinthians that God does these sort of things to shame the wise and the intelligent and the learned. And he chose God said, not many noble, not many wise according to the standards of the world. And so it'd be the people that may not be in academia or preeminent scientists that were trusting in the Lord and believing these things. And now they're getting the leaders of this world are now being shamed because God had a surprise in store for them, and the data is starting to pour in, and they can't resist it. Mm. The real irony is, who's discovering all this? It's the people that are diehard evolutionists. They're the ones who are running a lot of the lab experiments that are discovering all this. Not all of them. And I had a conversation with some of my colleagues. I said, you know what? Maybe creationists shouldn't be spending their own money for original research. I said, because there are billions being spent by like biotech and NASA and all these other institutions. I said, guys, God is spending money on our behalf. He's recruiting hundreds of billions of dollars on behalf of creationists. They don't even realize it. But, because they're trying to, like in the case of biology, they're trying to find cures for cancer. Well, you have to study biology to do it. But in the process, we got stuff like ENCODE. I mean, there's no way that the creationists could have forked out $500 million to fund ENCODE or $1 billion for ENCODE and its follow-ons. Right. But God provided the money. and that's just been killing the evolutionists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There seems to be a way. It's the door that who was it that said we cannot allow a divine foot in the door? The foot is in the door.
Yeah,
Who was it that said that? I forgot the famous scientist.
I'd say the whole leg. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Richard Lewontin.
Was it Richard Lewontin? That's what yeah, he said, we accept all the patently absurd just so stories that we make up for evolution to make it true and show it's true and all this blah, blah, blah. But it says, but we hold to materialism because it's an absolute. It must be true because we can't allow a divine foot in the door. We just can't do that. And yet now here we are with the divine foot is in the door and it's, and it's like, hello, you can't shut the door any further than that because I've got my foot in, and next comes my leg,
Well, I think we have 7 or 8 viewers, and I probably will be winding down the stream because we're going to have so many things going on over the next several days, which is totally exciting. I'm going to be having my discussion of relativity, Maxwell's equations, and young cosmos creationism, which really is a little bit stronger statement than young Earth creationism, because there are people like the Seventh-day Adventists who believe the universe is old, but the Earth is young. I mean, they're kind of on our side on the science end, but they don't go all the way for the young cosmos. And I would be arguing.
Tell us again, Sal, when do you have an expectation as to when and this protein, the implausibility of protein evolution, when this thing is going to happen, and is it going to be a live stream here in?
It's going to be a live stream on Standing for Truth's channel because I promised him that I would do that. That's kind of my way of supporting his work, and
that'll be great. Yeah.
So Sunday is when I asked for it, and we'll see if Mrs. SFT will let Mr. SFT have our meeting. Because I told, okay, hang on. Let's see. All right. So I got an email from Standing from Truth, but it's not clear what's going on. So we'll figure that out. But we're temporarily, I'd say provisionally, let's look for Sunday night. And I'm going to be trying to do it on his channel, and then I'll do the after show on my channel.
Sounds great.
That way I kind of take him off the hook too, so he can spend time with his family, which I think is really important. And he sacrificed so much, so that's my way of also helping him out. And I hope some of the lectures that I've left there on the channel people will visit it, and it'll help promote his channel.
That sounds great, Sal.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thanks for doing what you do, brother. And
thanks.
You're a valuable asset to the young Earth creation community.
Oh, it's nice to be needed. So before we say goodbye, Neff, tell us a little bit about Derek Barnes and how this debate came about.
I haven't a clue who Derek Barnes is. I just know I'm debating some dude about the flood on Saturday night, which, I love doing. The flood is one of my favorite subjects. I don't know much about him. I just know that he's supposedly been on Standing for Truth channel once or twice before, I think. But anyway, it's going to be a debate about the flood. And of course, my position is the flood is a historical and geological global event. And we can show evidence that virtually proves that to our conscience. So, yeah, I would encourage people to tune in for that. It's going to be on Standing for Truth channel at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. I always enjoy talking about the flood. And one of the reasons I do is because when it comes to the flood, the evidence is so damning for the uniformitarianism. It's so overwhelmingly in the pocket for the creationists that the evolutionists are really just terribly frustrated by it. They absolutely hate and love flood debates. They love to watch them, but the entire time, they're smashing their coffee mugs on their desk, saying, "That's not true. That can't be true. Blah blah blah. No, that can't be true," because you're destroying their worldview when you prove the flood. So I love doing that. But yeah, I look
Great.
for that too.
Now, Chris, Keith, and Neff, do you have channels we can promote for you on your behalf? I don't know what's the best way that if you do you have to post it on private chat or something, or you could post it in the regular chat? And
Yeah, I thank you for the mod wrench, because I can plug myself in there. Thank you. But Nephilim channel, it pops right up, Nephilim free YouTube, and
I'll paste the link in there.
Yeah,
Chris. So people can find you. I'm subscribed to your channel too.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna start doing some streaming. Like I've got one little small thing. I had to unfortunately one nice stream we did. Somebody at the very end did something vulgar with one of those little porn things they do, and I tried to edit it, and it got lost in no man's land. So long story short, I had to cancel it, and I hated that. But I did a little one on an introductory to typology of Jesus in the Old Testament. It's more for believers, to help strengthen their faith. But I'm going to probably be doing some more on that. So I'm going to subscribe to. And I've got StreamYard, but I'm going to probably just go ahead and get a year package, and where I can just do unlimited what I want to do. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. I can do it from my phone. I usually pull up my phone so that I've got it going so I can chat in the chat instead of opening two links.
Well, it's been a delight, gentlemen. And,
yeah, definitely.
I'm unfortunately
Thanks, Al.
I have a real strange sleeping schedule because I'm taking care of my mom, and I have. This may sound really screwy, but it's nighttime here in the USA on the East Coast. I have yard work to do before it gets too cold. So
we're still mowing here in Tennessee. It's crazy. I've never mowed this late in the year at all. But I think most people here have my channel. I'll get it. Do you or Neff need my channel link? I can put it in the private chat.
Yeah, just put it in there for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can put it in for everybody. That'd be great.
Put it in there for everybody real quick.
Thank you, Neff. And it seems like there's a delay. When I was trying to play the after show from a couple days before from my channel here, it didn't show the comments, the streaming comments. It takes it sometimes a while for it to post it, StreamYard.
Well, when you're in the stream and you're looking at the comments from within the stream, there is a delay. You'll see it there later after it turns up on the actual YouTube channel. It shows up immediately. But when you're in the stream looking at the comments from within the stream, there's a delay for you to get it. Just a few seconds. Yeah.
Well, it's even longer than that on the recorded version, because sometimes it doesn't show up until a few days later. I'm still waiting.
Oh, you're talking about the whole chat. Yeah, the whole chat doesn't show up for days, it seems. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the processing. But one thing I found out, this is an interesting feature, is it actually did a really good closed caption. I was just really impressed.
And it also publishes a transcription. You can also open up once it's present. You can click. There's a button you can click under the video for transcription of the chat, and it'll show the whole text chat in words of the live stream. Google translates all your speaking into words, and you can read every word ever spoken in the entire live stream.
It was amazing, and it's like some places will charge you for that, and it was done for free. I was like, this is really nice. So I'm learning all sorts of things. I know this will sound funny, but it's things like little things like that I say, thank God for Google. I know that sounds funny because Google has done a lot of things against the Christian faith, but
oh yeah,
they've done a lot. They're like the evolutionists. They provided a lot of tools to help the Christians. And I think that's a God thing. They don't realize that God has probably given them all that technology because it's ultimately going to be for God's kingdom. They may have meant it for evil. God means it for good.
Could you do me a favor, Neff? If you have the chat open, could you? I put it in the back link my channel. Could you post that over there for me because I'm sorry I closed my phone out.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see it show up, and I was wondering what happened.
Well, wait a minute. I'll just. Yeah. Do you see it in the back private chat?
Yeah, I'm going to post it.
Yeah, if you can just copy and post it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That way, if anybody else wants it in the other chat,
Yeah,
in the private
okay.
chat. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was on I had a little behind on another channel over here on my phone, and I've got it synced with my Microsoft. It's synced, but it's sometimes it's hard for me to do. It doesn't. It's supposed to come over, but it doesn't sometimes, and it didn't. So,
well.
But we appreciate it, Sal. We're really blessed to have you and stand for truth.
Sal's trying to get out of here. Let's let him go.
Actually, I'm gonna post. Sal. I think I just posted it for you, Chris.
Thank you for doing that.
I actually don't look at the private chat very often. Like I said, I'm learning how to navigate here. How about I close this in prayer?
Yes,
sure.
Heavenly Father, we live in a very troubled world, and we live in the last hour. We thank you that you provided so much evidence. Help us to make every hour and moment count. And Lord, we remember that it says in Ephesians, you prepared good works for us before the foundation of the world. And so even our little efforts here today, they may be of no consequence in the eyes of the world, but they're precious in your eyes. So I pray that you will bless the Standing for Truth channel. I pray you will bless Neff in his debate this coming Saturday, and that you'd also bless all the other presentations on the Standing for Truth channel and for all the other channels that are seeking to honor you and to proclaim the evidence that you've hidden away for these ages, but are now apparently being revealed in the 21st century, that reconstruct Noah's flood and Adam and Eve and the creation of the universe. So be with us this evening and always. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right, guys. If I don't
see you
anytime soon, for some of the listeners, maybe I'll see you tomorrow in my relativity discussion. And if not, God willing, I'll see you at Nephilim Freeze Noah's Flood debate, which just reminded me I might offer a after show for that too.
Cool.
So, all right. Take care. God bless you all.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Take
God bless you. I'll see you next.
Good night.
Later. Good night, guys.